Howdy, everybody. Welcome to Liberty Libations number 129. My name is Jake Green, joined as usual by Zane, Placie, and Nick Ciesielski. Cheers, everybody. Tonight, our guest is Reece Smith. Reece, tell us who you are.
Howdy, everyone. Thank you very much for having me on. So my name is Reece Smith. I'm currently running for my local school board. As well, I'm a libertarian, but I'm doing something a lot different than a lot of other libertarians, and that's I'm running on the Democrat and Republican primaries as well, which is something unique to Pennsylvania. So I won both those primaries. So, come November, I should be on the ballot as a Democrat, Republican, and Libertarian. And so I should be a lock in that race. So something new and different there that we're doing to help advance liberty.
That is new. I'm fascinated. We're going to get into that here in a little while. All right, y'all. Zane, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm on the classic Heineken. Good to be back.
That's what classic Heineken? Is that a normal thing for you?
Classic to me.
Okay.
I don't remember him ever drinking a Heineken before.
I don't.
I've had it a bunch of times.
Okay. Nick, what do you got?
I got whatever I still had left over from the basket I won at the LPPA convention from Bucks County Brewing. I guess This is the oatmeal stout, the Wood Ape oatmeal stout.
Heck yeah. I love a good oatmeal stout. Reece, are you drinking tonight?
No, I don't know. I don't drink on weeknights usually.
Fair enough, man. I respect that. This is the only weeknight I generally drink. And it's because it's, naming the show. What's up, Zane?
Steven's not here, so we have an IPA-free episode.
Actually, this one's an IPA.
What?
He had to ruin it. You didn't have to say that, Nick. You could have just...
I had to ruin Zane's fun.
I'm drinking some scotch, some Ardbeg Wee Beastie, per usual. It's my daily drinker, so it is what it is.
Are you some kind of interrogation cell, Jake?
I'm in a what they call a soundproof booth at Switch Yards, co-working space in Atlanta. But yeah, I mean, it could very well be an interrogation cell. It's very padded for getting thrown around and smashed against the walls. So,
Jake got picked up by ICE.
Yeah, I'm doing this from a prison cell, from an ICE detention facility. Well, y'all, welcome to the show. It's episode 129. We're going to talk about some of the rioting that's been happening, as well as, our guest just disappeared from the screen. He'll be back in a minute. You can see the topics on the right-hand side of the screen. I'm not going to go over them all right now. All right, let's launch into our first one. As soon as Reece comes back.
All right. Sorry about that. I have no clue what happened there, but it let me right back in. So
it's all good. It's all good. You can come and go as you please, man. It's open door policy. All right, Zach, let's throw up the first, watch a little bit of that video that I had put in there. There we go.
Riot police faced off against anti-ICE protesters in downtown Los Angeles on Friday evening. The tense confrontation came after a day of federal immigration raids across the city. Dozens of people were reportedly taken into custody.
Like LA. That's wild.
This eyewitness footage appears to show one such raid, in which caravans of unmarked military-style vehicles and vans loaded with uniformed federal agents streamed through LA.
All right, you can pause
agents targeted several locations according.
He ends every sentence in the form of a question. In LA? It's extremely frustrating. Well, y'all, if you didn't know, there have been riots going on for a few days now out in Los Angeles. And I think a couple other spots, but I think it's mainly Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. Has anybody got any first thoughts on what's happening out there and everything that's going on?
First thoughts. It looks like we're back to 5 years ago, Summer of Love. This time it's just over Mexicans and then George Floyd. But as far as I know, the thing to think about here is that these aren't, sporadic protests, right? There's a whole lot of planning and a whole lot of things. Like, I believe someone was arrested for driving around and dropping off huge amounts of gas masks to the protesters. So there's organization and a whole bunch of stuff behind this. It's clear that these aren't peaceful protests. I mean, some of them obviously are, but that was always the excuse 5 years ago also, was that, oh, look, peaceful protests, you can't do that. And then, oh, look, they're cracking down on it. But then you look and they're smashing windows and breaking stuff and lighting things on fire. And it's like, yeah, that's not a peaceful protest. Most people were peaceful. The excuse doesn't count when people get into actual damaging and destroying, blocking streets from people. You want to protest it,
I mean,
in that clip.
Go ahead,
Zane.
Zane.
In that clip that I think is easy to pass over, but it's kind of one of the main points here, I think. Did you catch where he said that major ICE raids across the city had deported or caught dozens of people? There are 10 million illegal immigrants here, and we're talking about dozens of people, and I don't think that anybody even checked. Has anybody checked who these people are? Are they the actual criminals, or are they just somebody at Pizza Hut? I didn't check because I was too lazy, but I would assume that the protesters, hopefully they did their homework before starting to throw bricks at cars. Hopefully they at least checked that it wasn't, actual rapists, because
I don't think it matters to them.
Dude, that's what I was going to say. I don't think they care. I'm not certain. Yeah, I'm not certain that it's criminal history.
When I said that they should, I didn't necessarily mean that I expected that they had. I meant that they should have.
Yeah, I mean, look at what's his name, the Maryland man that was deported to El Salvador, and they said, they said, well, he's MS-13, and
don't bring this up.
Last I heard on that story is that they were sending him back here, and he was facing charges of human trafficking and other stuff. So.
That one was a little bit different because you weren't just deporting him. You were deporting him directly into prison with no trial, which I wasn't the happiest about. But if you're just deporting them back, when you're just deporting them back into Mexico, then I don't think that you've got to go through the entire process of a full criminal trial as if you had, I'm not saying that there should be nothing, but it doesn't need to be the same standard as we're throwing you in jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the real crazy thing is that if you check the polling, the prospect of mass deportations was kind of the most popular it had ever been. It had finally broken 50%, which for the longest time it hadn't. People really didn't like the idea of police going out in mass and rounding up people and deporting them. But Trump, through his rhetoric and talking to people, he got that issue to become more popular. But on the idea of we're going to go and deport all the rapists and gang members. But then as soon as he starts, the first people that he's deporting is college students that are protesting Israel. And then people that are here legally or are married to U.S. citizens and have kids with them. Or we're going to deport these people, deport people that are in the process of getting their citizenship. And you hear a bunch of instances of ICE just harassing people who are 2 generations removed from immigrating from Mexico, but are just still look Mexican. When it's okay, so you had I don't want to use the term mandate, but you had people basically finally in favor of this policy that you want to do, and then you do it in the exact opposite way you said you were going to do it, and you mess up the entire thing. It's just insane, the level of incompetence from the administration about doing deportations if you want to do them.
Dude, 100%, man. They really did campaign on getting starting with all the criminals, starting with all the people who were continuously breaking the law, who weren't even allowed to be here to begin with. And then you see,
which I completely agree with that.
I agree with that too.
If you're a dangerous criminal and you're here illegally, out.
Yep, but then you see the story of I forget his name, but he's one of the biggest TikTokers on earth, and he gets detained by ICE. He's from Africa. Gets detained by ICE. He's here just shooting videos. Flew over from and doing nothing wrong.
I heard his people were saying that he wasn't detained by ICE and that he wasn't in the U.S. at that time.
I've read many articles saying the opposite.
I've read those articles that immigration was saying that they detained him and told him to leave, but I saw in one article that his representations that he wasn't in the U.S. at that time, and
Interesting.
that he wasn't detained. So I don't know
I don't know why
they just-
TikToker has representation, but
when you're that popular, you have management and everything else. And Jake's frozen again, so that's good.
Yeah, but Nick and Reece, to your point, the only thing that could have rescued the Trump administration from the horrible optics of the way they were going about deporting the last people that you'd want to deport is the moron leftists that decided that they were going to protest all over again in the stupidest way possible. It's like Trump now gets a do-over where he had the mandate to deport the criminals. He lost it because he was a moron. And then now he has it back because the leftists are also morons. Everybody's a moron.
Right. They can't just go out there and protest. They have to start throwing fireworks at the cops, and they're standing there chucking rocks at cop cars as they drive by.
dude, some kid punched a police horse. Like, what are you thinking? Like, you're not only going to get every human on earth who likes animals on your ass, you're also going to probably be sued by PETA. You don't
Dude,
want
that horse is
them
going to stomp you. Like, horses are strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw one guy get trampled by a horse during the
Did you
protest.
see that video from the end of last week where one of them was out in front trying to block the ICE cars that were going by, and they just ran his ass over?
Yep, I did see that. Why do people think? I never understood this with the Just Stop Oil people either. But like, why do people think that standing in front of moving vehicles is going to be a productive way to protest things?
Well, they ran out of fine art to put orange paint on, so they had no other choice but to stand in the middle of the highway.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's the thing too. There are like some really dumb protests, like the throwing the cake on the Mona Lisa or the soup, whatever it was. Like, what
are you doing? Like that I cannot begin to like fathom the thought process that goes behind that. Like, the only thing that I can think of is they're just trying to get attention, and they'll just destroy anything to get that attention.
Well,
which
luckily, most of those artworks that they've gone after are behind glass, so you're not even doing anything besides making a news story.
Yeah,
which I guess
making
is
some poor janitor clean it off.
Yeah, exactly. No, they're creating jobs, Reece. You know that.
Oh yeah,
got to have more janitors in these museums now, which creates jobs, which funds people.
A modern broken window.
Yeah, exactly.
All these protest movements are being funded by Campbell's, so there's more demand for soup.
One question that I have is I've seen a bunch of people trying to justify these protests and these riots by basically saying there's always going to be violence during these types of things, and that's okay because violence is okay when you're standing up for good things.
So violence is always okay.
There we go.
That's the inevitable consequence of that line of reasoning.
Yeah, take us down that line of reasoning, Zane. Like, because that is what people say. Like, they're standing up for human rights. They're standing up for human beings, and so like it's okay to fight back even if it's physically. Yeah.
Let's get physical.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you can claim that you're standing up for human rights, I guess, but what exactly is the human right? The human right to be physically located on the piece of ground that you're on. Like, the libertarian debate over immigration, I feel like, has been done to death. So I don't know if we need to rehash that.
No.
But like, regardless of whether you think whoever it is should be deported or not, that doesn't give you the right to go and burn down somebody's store that has absolutely nothing to do with it and no control over it. It's like, I have a problem with person A, so I'm going to go punch person B in the face. That's like the line of reason. And also, when they do have riots like this, it just gives the excuse to the military police to just get even worse. And it causes the right wing of America to just cheer it on. Like, in like my gut level reaction to these riots is that they need to be put down because they're incredibly inappropriate. But unlike most other people generally on the right, I am smart enough to realize there are a lot of ways that you can react to this happening that are completely counterproductive. It's like the people saying, oh, we need Palantir to be able to collect all of our data so that we can identify the people that we need to deport and identify all these rioters. It's like, that's absolutely not a price I'm willing to pay. That's going to backfire so fast. You do not want that to be the solution.
Dude, 100%. That was going to be my next. That was going to be my next point. Is that's kind of where I wanted to take this. Was we have Republicans now cheering on the furthering the way more invasive version of the Patriot Act.
Yep.
And they
2001 is back, guys.
It's
Yeah.
wild. I can't. I can't believe.
Let's see what happens now, because Israel has preemptively struck Iran. So let's see if the Warhawks come back.
Wait, what? What happened?
Oh my God.
Israel has preemptively struck Iran.
How big?
Breaking news.
Bomb, Iran. Bomb.
Yeah, this shit was supposed to be over when John McCain died.
Wait a second.
At least that's reports of what I'm getting right now.
Let's see. I'm not seeing that.
I could have bad sources.
Are you in
it,
like the schizophrenic like Telegram channels where they're like the Nephilim are returning?
I'm not. No.
Right now it says, as of Friday, June 13th, Israel has not yet launched a confirmed bombing campaign against Iran. And it's June 13th over there. So that's what I'm reading right now.
I think there's a website called like isitchristmas.com where it says no on every day except on Christmas when it says yes. We need a similar website that says, has Israel bombed Iran.com, and it just says no until it says yes.
That's so good. Yes.
So Unusual Wales is reporting.
Yeah, it says they're planning to, not they have.
But apparently Israel has issued a state of emergency, and
Trump's pulling out a bunch of folks from the Middle East right now. I know that.
Yeah.
Some reporter asked him about that today or yesterday. And he said, well, you'll see why. And it's like, just tell people, dummy. If we're not going to be if we're not the ones going to be doing the bombing, then just tell people what's happening. Yeah.
So if World War III starts, does that mean we're getting a rate cut from the Fed, guys?
Probably. Refinance the house.
We might be getting a rate cut, but we're also going to be getting money printing out the wazoo. So that won't help anything either. Israel launches preemptive strikes against Iran, defense minister says.
Wait a minute. Just to
Calling
make sure I'm
preemptive
understanding
instead of
what's
just-
going on right now, is this like a major problem? Like, is World War III actually about to start right now, or are we
Probably
okay?
not, because Israel has occasionally bombed Iran. I mean, usually it's, more covertly, like sneak in there and plant bombs on nuclear scientist cars or something. But
because I see this was published 1 minute ago, which would make it a rare time where we actually are breaking news on the show.
And Iranian state media is reporting explosions heard in Tehran. So, it seems like a strike has happened.
That's wild, man. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what to think about this. My brain is not ready to take on the possibility of actual World War III.
Well, they're trying to stop whatever deal Trump may be negotiating with Iran to basically get more oil into the economies and take off sanctions and basically monitor their nuclear program. So,
interesting. Yeah.
That's what they wanted to do whenever Barack Obama cut the deal the first time, and now that the deal could be on the table there.
All right. Well, Zach, keep an eye on X for us and see if anything else pops up. If we actually have any confirmation besides a report that was 1 minute ago from CNN. See if there's something besides CNN reporting. But let's go back to the Palantir thing and the Republicans embracing their own demise in the future. What is it about the world we live in, especially, it just seems like it's more recent development, but how quickly people forget about things that they didn't like before, they're now accepting it. Like, Zane, go ahead.
Well, it's like the COVID regime I thought was going to be the death knell of this, but turns out, as everyone is a moron, as usual.
Perfect. Yeah.
And the hilarious thing is that you know for a fact they're going to collect all this data, and they're still not going to manage to deport anyone. So they're not even going to use the data that they get to do what they said and what people actually want. They're only going to use it to spy on you.
Dude,
and then Gavin Newsom's going to use it to lock up right-wingers in about 4 years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But the thing to also keep in mind here, right, is we just also had the Real ID debate. And, you know, I know I made a post on the LPPA TikTok, you know, about the Real ID. And one of the comments was, no, we need Real ID because it stops illegal immigration, which, no, it doesn't. It absolutely does not. It does nothing of the sort. It's never done anything of the sort. And this thing is, 20 years old. The Real ID transition is 20 years old.
Well, Nick, illegal immigration hasn't been a problem for the past 20 years, so it seems to be working perfectly.
Yeah. So it's mind-boggling, right? I mean, it's classic propaganda. You just, you know, you want the policy. You say, all right, everyone, you know, my base wants that, you know, is against illegal immigration. Everything that's terrible that is going to be used against you, that's going to empower the government, is now, you know, needed for illegal immigration. And then you got the right wingers on board with it, like, yes, we need this. And the left is so damn lost that, I mean, at least I don't see them pushing Palantir. You know, and as far as, you know, big bad evil companies, Palantir's right up there with Lockheed, and
it's literally named Palantir. Like, why is anybody trusting this thing?
Yeah, it's right up there with Lockheed and Raytheon in my book.
Yeah, 100%.
Like when the Blake Masters thing, you know, election was going off, and there were, you know, libertarians going at it. That was my biggest concern, was how close Masters was to Teal. I had that concern with JD Vance, how close Vance was to Teal.
Yep.
You know, Teal, the, you know, libertarian billionaire, and you know, also found, you know, also funding Palantir, and I'm like, I am you know, this looks like a play by Palantir, and yeah, they've just come out and said, look, we just need Palantir to do everything for us so that we have all the data. Is where we're at now. So
I mean, the Trump administration keeps doing this, where they campaigned on very specific things in each of these categories, and then they act on each of these categories, but not in any way, shape, or form on what they actually campaigned on. And it's, yeah, we talked about this last week or the week before, but like, in my mind, the Trump presidency is already a failure. Like, I don't think there's any coming back from it. I think he once again did not surround himself with anybody who has a backbone for things that actually matter. Every single person that we were hesitantly excited about has failed miserably in their positions and gone very, very much the wrong direction. I would say at this point, the only good thing that Trump has done is release Ross Ulbricht. I can't think of a single other good thing that he's done at this point.
I mean, RFK fired everyone on the vaccine safety committee and repopulated it with, you know, some
but he had, like, he's still, they're still saying take the COVID jab.
Yeah,
like,
well, they just fired everyone like 2 days ago. I know. I'm just saying that's a recent development.
Yeah, but like, I don't know how much more proof you need that the mRNA vaccines do way more harm than good, especially in people that are under 60 years old. Like,
well, Robert Malone is now on the committee, so maybe we'll actually see something.
Hopefully. Yeah, I don't know. Reece, what are your thoughts on the Trump presidency thus far?
I think the only thing that could possibly redeem it is if he freed Diddy. I think that's really the only thing. No, I think it's been absolutely terrible. I
freed Larry Hoover.
Delivered on so many so many promises. The ones he's kind of, try to pull up and do good on, he's like just been failing. I mean, the only thing really left in the pipeline is the no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. I am like crossing my fingers. I hope those can get through, and I hope they can keep the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, like renew those different tax rates and stuff. I work in financial planning, so all the time we talk about like, oh man, are we gonna have all these tax rates go up on all our clients? And it's like, I hope we do not. I hope we keep, the estate exemption extra high. But, besides the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and the Tax Cut and Jobs Act renewing that, not that much good coming out. I mean, you see the new bill, the one big beautiful bill is just one big bill. It's like, we need to cut all the spending, and then they don't cut any of it. And then you have Mike Johnson going out with like some of the most Orwellian speak out there, being like, yes, we have to turn the ship around. And the way we turn the ship around is by continuing to turn it off the fiscal cliff before we can then turn it away from it.
We got to spend more before we spend less, Reece.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, but the tax cuts are going to spur so much growth, which like it does, but like never enough to actually increase revenues more. And then he's complaining like, oh, the Congressional Budget Office, their GDP growth estimates are too low, and they come out and they're like, we're going to grow 1 bajillion % every year for 20 years straight. It's like, yeah, that's not happening at all. You guys are just drinking insane Kool-Aid, especially if it's only like tax cuts. Like that's not really going to spur that much economic growth, especially when you have economic activity being ground to a halt with all the tariff talk. Not just like, oh, the tariffs itself are bad, but like it's like no one knows what's happening on a daily basis with the tariff. So everyone's just going to wait and see attitude. And so when all of your businesses are just going, we're just going to wait it out and see what happens. No one's actually doing any new economic activity. No one's growing. No one's developing. It's like, oh, we need to reshore. But when you build all these tariffs by executive fiat, in 4 or 8 years, a new president's going to come in and take them all off. And now, again, it's unprofitable to have a factory in the United States. And all the companies know this. So no one's actually going to reshore. Sure, some companies have had some announcements, but like it's like, oh, yeah, we'll have the new plant done in like 5 years. And in 3 years, when Trump's out of office and the tariffs get repealed, they're going to be like, oh, we're no longer going forward with this plan anymore. We're going to nix the factory and go back to building one in Mexico again. So it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I mean, the big beautiful bill thing, man, like how many times over the last 4 years did Republicans whine on Twitter and in every interview that bills should be separated into different things and you shouldn't cram a whole bunch of crap into a bill and you have to be able to read the bill and all this stuff. And now they're putting through a enormous bill with tons of different stuff in there that half the people didn't read.
Yeah,
None of them read it. Not a single person read that bill. And at least Marjorie Taylor Greene was willing to admit she didn't read it. Everyone's out here like dunking on her, like, oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene, admit it's not reading the bill, admit it's not reading the bill. None of them read the bill. She's just the only one who's gonna be like, yeah, guys, I totally didn't read this bill, to be real with you all.
Yeah, the only thing, it's that bill's probably going to pass. The only thing we can really, really hope for, like you said, the no tax on tip, no tax on overtime, which unfortunately I don't get tips or overtime, so I make nothing out of it. But less taxes for people are still good. And if the Hearing Protection Act stays in there, which passed in the House version of it, so that lets you
the Hearing Protection Act. What's that?
You can buy cans for your guns without NFA bullshit. It takes suppressors off the NFA. So there's that, and there's another push to get the Short Act in there so that you can buy short barrels without going through NFA bullshit. So
that'd be nice.
That'd be nice that I can take my pistol, my AR pistol, and have an actual stock on it instead of not having a stock on it to make sure it's a pistol and not a short barrel rifle, because these laws are really, really fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, I don't have too much more to say about the riots that are happening right now, other than just riots don't work. You're not winning any favor with anybody who might be on the fence or disagreeing with you and on your principles. Destroying private property and destroying things that don't belong to you are not an effective way to state your grievances against anyone.
And I'll point out this. So, this weekend we've been having these protests the past couple of days, past week or so. And this weekend, Indivisible, one of the big progressive groups and other left-wing groups, are having their quote-unquote "No Kings" protest across the country. Who knows how those are going to go. The last one,
our very own Chase Oliver is going to go attend it. It's going to be great.
It's super libertarian. It's not
making a big
AstroTurf
difference. That's some star power there.
It's not a progressive AstroTurf or anything. But highly recommended stay away from these things. Stay away from the protests like there's one, there's several, and there's one all over the place. Like there was a protest a couple months ago that was Indivisible also. Those stayed peaceful, but just a couple of minutes away in the city of Greensburg, which is downtown, is 5 minutes from me. They're having a protest, No Kings protest. So hopefully that stays peaceful there. I mean, this is a largely red area, so they turn out a bunch
what I've
of
been
boomers
surprised
on
about
them.
is they're going to have them really everywhere. So you mentioned there's going to be one in Greensburg. There's also going to be one in Washington County too, which is another really rural county near us. So really everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued to see how far and spread out they can have the No Kings protest.
I mean, the one they had not too long ago in Westmoreland, I saw the videos from it, and it was really like just a bunch of boomers whining about you're not going to touch our Social Security, anti-Doge stuff. So I'm sure that's what they're going to turn out here again, is a bunch of boomers to whine about their Social Security.
Yeah.
So these people have no concept of what tyranny is.
Nope.
Because all of these people naming their protest the No Kings rally, it's the most ridiculous nonsense I've ever heard in my entire life. Because that every time a Democrat is in power that's doing the million things that they do that they shouldn't be doing, they have no problem with that. So they really have no problem with tyranny as a concept. They just don't like it when somebody uses their tyrannical or kingly authority to deport criminals, and granted a few other people as well. But even if you're a libertarian and you're upset that people that are just here for a job are getting deported, it's still unclear to me to what extent that's happening, but I'm sure it's happened to at least one person. So, okay, you can be upset about that. But by showing up at one of these leftist AstroTurf protests, what you're conveying to the general public is not your nuanced understanding of immigration and sovereignty. You're just one more person in this Borg crowd of completely unthinking, idiotic leftists that just hate at not just the United States government, but everything that American society stands for, and you're a tool.
Well, also keep in mind here that, these same leftists were the ones cheering on, oh, if you don't have your vax, you shouldn't be allowed out in public. You needed, during COVID, they were the ones pushing the harshest, strongest. You better listen or get your skull cracked. Stay in your house, or
except when they were, doing the BLM protests.
Well,
then the virus doesn't spread.
The virus doesn't spread there.
But even in the hypocrisy of earlier, you see Gavin Newsom now saying that Trump sending in the National Guard and ICE violates the 10th Amendment because they're a sanctuary city. It's I don't think I've ever seen any Democrat be like, yes, the 10th Amendment. Come on, guys. We all love the 10th Amendment. And that's the craziest part about, I think, the political atmosphere, at all in the past however many years, is those stray moments where you have the Democrats all of a sudden are pro something they've never been pro before. All of a sudden they're pro states' rights now. And the Republicans doing exactly what they were this is terrible, 5 seconds ago with stuff like Palantir and things like that. It's just insane.
That's what happens when you have no principles and no morals. You just
and the memory of a goldfish.
Exactly.
I've actually come to the conclusion that the biggest difference between the establishment right and the establishment left is that it's actually the establishment right that has no principles, and it's the establishment left that has principles, and they're really terrible.
Okay, we're gonna end this segment on that because that was perfect. All right, let's bring up the next article. Zach, we talked a little bit about a similar situation last week. Here we go. Brazilian comedian Leo Lins sentenced to 8 years in prison for discriminatory jokes. Go to the next article too. That gives a better better article on what he actually did. Yeah, scroll down. Okay, right there. On Tuesday, June 3rd, Brazilian comedian Leo Lins was sentenced to over 8 years in prison for making discriminatory remarks in a stand-up routine that targeted a wide range of minority groups. This is the range of minority groups: Black people, obese people, elderly people, those living with HIV, homosexuals, evangelicals, indigenous communities, and people from impoverished northeast of Brazil, Jews, and people with disabilities. So
I feel like I make jokes about every group there.
What group did he not?
I think when the groups gets that diverse, it like gets a pass. It becomes woke. Because I mean, if you have a joke for every single group, that sounds pretty woke to me.
I am pleased to report that I actually do not fall into any of those categories.
Zach says, sounds like he didn't discriminate. I kind of agree with you, Zach. Like, every single group you could think of is in there, aside from maybe white Americans. But like,
he said people with disabilities.
Yeah, they like half of them are disabled. And
we all have
actually, like,
autism. We do all fall into these categories.
And obese.
Oh man, yeah. So this guy is sentenced to over 8 years in prison for a stand-up comedy routine. Dude, it's wild. Obviously, they're appealing it, so we'll see what actually happens with it. But
what country is this?
Brazil.
This is just absolutely astounding. I mean, 8 years. Like you were talking. What weren't we talking last week a little bit about? The lady in England that got 3 years for the inciting for inciting violence on Twitter by posting that about
burning down hotels,
with immigrants, which was absurd because it wasn't really like a direct call to action or anything, but was frustrated venting. And this is literally a comedian. You tell jokes. Like, being offensive is part of comedy. And last I checked, Brazil is back under the control of the left winger Lula, right? So they got rid of Bolsonaro, and they were also prosecuting him.
Yep,
I believe, right? And Lula, who'd already been convicted on corruption charges or something, if I remember right, is now the commie back in charge. So of course they're going to do what commies do, and they're cracking down on mean words. So it's absolutely absurd, especially like, even if you're going to have that stuff, like when it comes to it, you're talking about a comedian. Like, I mean, we saw the freak out here whenever Tony Hinchcliffe went on, was at the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden and was telling offensive jokes, and people freaked out about it. But it's like, that's what comedians do. He's literally a comedian. They're like, look at these evil racists. And it's like, yeah, Grumpy, we talked about that.
Yeah. Well, I think he's confirming it.
He started it. Yeah.
But
yeah, so it's part of comedy to be as offensive as possible to as many people as possible, and it's absolutely ridiculous to prosecute speech. Free speech is absolute up until you're literally calling for direct violence against someone and saying, hey, go do something to that person, or let's go do, or actually committing violence or something like that.
Well, not to go full autist on you, Nick, but technically free speech is just a manifestation of property rights. Like, there's no inherent right to just say whatever you want wherever you want. And this is kind of the thing with the riots as well. It's like, sure, you have the right to say that you are unhappy with ICE, but you don't have the right to say that while you're standing in the middle of the highway blocking traffic that everybody paid their taxes to be able to drive on. So I know what people generally mean when they say freedom of speech. But it's like, if there was some woke idiot that had a comedy club that that this isn't okay, then obviously nobody would go to it and it would go out of business. But while it was in operation, you actually don't have a right to say that in their establishment, but you also wouldn't be thrown in jail. So
yes,
Right. Well,
this article.
that's where we're at.
You guys remember in like 2016, someone had like made a tweet that was like, "Hey guys, if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, you can now vote by text. Everyone like text your vote to this number." And like, did they ever end up putting him in jail? I know they were like prosecuting him.
They were going hard after him, man.
He got convicted. Yeah.
I
can't remember the complete outcome, but
that
was also messed up. Yeah.
It was messed up. They're like, this story is like from Brazil, but like we should not be in a position where we think, oh wow, that's messed up in Brazil, but that wouldn't happen here. Like, no, we're like one click away from that full on happening here.
Owen Schroyer got time for showing up to the Capitol protest.
Yep.
He didn't go into the Capitol. He didn't.
Nope.
He didn't commit any violence, but just by being there, they sentenced Owen Schroyer to prison.
Yes, they did. The federal court in Sao Paulo ruled that the right to freedom of expression is not absolute, and when it comes into conflict with human dignity, the latter must prevail.
No,
human dignity is meaningless word salad.
The huge problem there is the first part of that sentence is right. The freedom of expression is not absolute, but it's not limited by human dignity, whatever that means. It's limited by property rights. And I know that on my previous correction of Nick, I did kind of come across like a left libertarian. But I think it is like being, it's a private company, they can do what they want, blah, blah, blah. But I think in some sense it is important to get this right. Because actually, if you say, I have the right to say whatever I want, wherever I want, that is actually an inaccurate statement. And that inaccuracy can be exploited by idiot leftists that want to come up with a bunch of stupid reasons to restrict your speech. But there is one good one, and it is to do with property.
Agreed, man. Agreed. Well, yeah. That, I think, unless anybody has anything else to say about this, we kind of beat this to death last week as well. So, yeah, we can move on to
what does it actually say what he said, or do we have? I'm guessing it's in Portuguese.
Portuguese.
If there's a clip of him actually saying
it just kind of summarized it. I don't. Yeah, he didn't speak English in his videos. So
I was hoping it was funny at least.
That's true. If it bombed, I think that just the sentence is justified.
Yeah, if he's a terrible comedian, then yeah, I think it makes more sense. All right, y'all. Let's move on.
I am not fucking drunk.
Well, 19th are blue.
Every pretty girl deserves to go to a ball.
This is everything about it's a clam. I love it.
I gotta be honest with you, I feel like I'm a little bit too drunk to stand up.
On Beatles Day, asshole.
I'm drunk right now.
All right, everybody. Our drunkard of the week this week is a comedian, and it's a hero. So here you go.
Sauron.
Stop.
But it's Donald Trump.
His Trump. No.
Wait, does he have a Donald Trump?
Look, these people, tiny little freaks, okay? They don't wear shoes. They're smoking crack, perhaps they live in holes in the ground, people. Hey, you see a round door with a knob in the middle. Where does it go to the side? How does the knob in the middle of the door open the door? Folks, we're gonna have a beautiful all black tower, choke the world in smoke, okay? We're gonna have Balrogs. Every orc in Mordor is gonna have a Balrog protecting you, okay? And these people, and they say Denethor, by the way, people don't know this, not a real king, not the real king of Gondor. Make Isengard great again! Yes, we're going to make Middle-earth great again. Folks, listen, people don't understand. I'll tell you this right now. If you ever see Denethor, and I call him Little Tomato, because if you ever see this guy eat tomatoes, what a freak, what a freaky guy. We're going to have so much poison smoke. By the end, you're going to be the age of the orc. You're going to be tired of the age of the orc, okay? We have 9 Nazgul flying on their horses drowned in a river. Very nasty elf man, Elrond. Very nasty elf made a river come to life with horses to drown. Who drowns a horse? Beautiful horse. These horses expensive. the most expensive horses you've ever seen. But I said, no problem.
Brennan,
We want to be free to do what we want to do. Yeah. We want to get loaded. Yeah. And we want to have a good time.
All right. Our drunkard of the week is Brennan Mulligan. Dude is hilarious. We've featured him on the show a few times during the funny section. Yeah, there weren't any drunkard nominations this week. Second time in a month, you people have not submitted any drunkard nominations.
I didn't submit any?
I had to go find one, and this was it. So
I thought I submitted the ice guy getting run over.
Not that I know of, but if you're watching, you can submit drunkard nominations each week. Tag us on X or send it to us on X or Instagram or Facebook or in an email or whatever.
Or join the Dollar Media Club and send it in the Discord where we'll
join
see
the
it.
Dollar Media Club and you can put it in the Discord. There you go. Yeah, Brennan Mulligan, hilarious guy. His politics are garbage, but he is really funny. So there you go.
Well, it can't be that leftist because that actually was funny.
Yeah. It wasn't one of those please clap jokes. It was, comedians.
He
it was funny.
hates capitalism, like hates it. So he's not great
that's too bad.
On politics.
My rule is that if I see a funny comedian, they can't be that bad. Because the consequence of being really leftist is that you lose the capacity for humor. Because it's like anything. I feel like there's part of the leftist philosophy where if you go down it far enough, you lose the ability to really appreciate anything. Yes. Or excel or appreciate excellence in anything. Because no matter what the thing is, there's always something about it that needs to be deconstructed or problematized or some reason why you can't just let it be its own thing and enjoy it.
I agree with you.
For the most part, I do. But, Brennan might be the exception to that rule. All right, let's talk about Reese's school board run. I'm curious how this happened. I don't understand the mechanism by which you were in the Democratic and Republican primaries, and you're going to be on the ballot as a libertarian as well. Please explain how this works.
So first off, it's okay you don't understand. In fact, so few people understand that I'm pretty sure I'm the first person to ever do this because it's so little understood. So first, we have to start at the big picture of PA election law, which is, in my experience, it's been pretty unique compared to other state election laws. So,
yeah, first thing to keep in mind is there are no nonpartisan races in PA. Everything.
I just about to say that. I just about to say that. So, in some places you go, usually races like governor are pretty much always partisan, where you have party registration. But in a lot of places, you'll have nonpartisan elections, I believe at the municipal level in North Carolina, those elections are nonpartisan. So, everyone just sort of runs.
Nonpartisan at the local level.
Mm-hmm. So they'll run. People just run. There's no party affiliation, nothing like that. In PA, everything is partisan. It is partisan down to when you vote to have a judge of elections at your precinct, that is a partisan election to say who's going to be the judge of elections at the precinct.
The election inspectors, which are each precinct has a 3-person board, the judge and 2 inspectors. The inspectors have to be from different parties. One of the highest vote getter is the majority inspector. And the lowest vote getter is the second highest is the minority inspector. So you have down to every precinct in the state, you have partisan elections.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right.
And so usually you have to be registered just with a party. You're a registered Democrat, you're running in the Democrat primary. Registered Republican, you're running in the Republican primary. Now, I don't know why PA does this, but they allow the parties to do what's called cross-filing, where for school board and magistrate, if you run for your local magistrate position, you can cross-file as a Democrat and Republican because those are the sort of the parties. Now, before I explain the next part, I need to explain that whenever we say political parties, we all think that it's Democrats, Republicans, the main ones. It's Libertarians, there are Greens, there's the Constitution Party. In PA, they classify parties into 3 different groups. So there's the parties, which splits into 2: the major parties, which are the Democrats and Republicans, and then the minor parties. Right now, there's only one minor party, and it's the Libertarian Party. We get this through getting a certain amount of votes in statewide elections. That's not really important. Just what you need to know is that right now, the Libertarians are the only minor political party in PA. Every other party that's not the 2 majors or a minor political party is called a political body. And so that's like what the Greens are, the Constitution Party are. They're all political bodies. For the longest time, people thought cross-filing was only for the major parties. So Democrats can cross-file as Republicans for those 2 races. Republicans can cross-file as Democrats for those 2 races, but they couldn't cross-file as like an independent or being a Green member or being a Libertarian Party member. In the 90s, there was a court case with the Ross Perot's Patriot Party, where basically they sued, and the courts in PA said, no, cross-filing isn't limited to the major parties. They're limited to the parties in general, both major and minor political parties, which means since the Libertarian Party is now a minor political party, you can now cross-file as a Libertarian amongst all 3. And this is so little known. When I turned in my petitions to be on the primary ballots, they tried to stop me. They told me I couldn't do it at the local elections office. And I told them, no, I can. Here's the court case. And they were like, fine, we'll allow it, we guess. So I was able to...
Keep in mind, this court case was against the county elections board that Reece is running in. This is not somewhere else in the state. It was Allegheny County that was sued on this and got the court to rule against them.
So they knew.
And the reason we knew about this court case is because the member involved back then is one of the Libertarian Party of Allegheny's members now. And so he told me about it. And he was like, you should totally try to do this. And I was like, okay, sure, let's see if it works. But so I got on both the primaries, and I was able to go through, and I won. I won both of them. So now I should be on. Well, I will be on as Democrat and Republican. And right now I'm collecting signatures to be on as Libertarian, and they should accept my paperwork. Maybe they'll try not to, and we'll have to go to court, and we'll just see if I can scrape up enough money to go to court or not. But they should accept my paperwork.
You have the signatures now already. You're just working on getting the buffer zone, right?
I'm getting a buffer zone. Yeah, I needed 49, and I'm at like 53. So I'm just trying to get some more here and there. I still have people that I know that I can talk to and get signatures with. So, nice. But yeah. And the interesting thing too is though that the Libertarian Party bylaws, we can only nominate people that like are libertarians, and we don't have a primary. So like none of the other candidates can go and get the Libertarian nomination and also be on as Libertarian, because it's against our bylaws to endorse them, or against our bylaws to nominate them. And even if it's not a primary, it's they would need to be nominated by the by the county party. So you'd have to convince like 7 hardcore libertarians to nominate you for that position, which I don't think they would. So I essentially get to be the only one on as a Democrat, Republican.
Finally, a ballot access law that favors libertarians. What a win!
It is much easier to win these primaries than win in the general, because it's also, if let's say I hadn't run, there would then be 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, probably the same people, just because of the way the cross-filing usually works out. It'd probably be the same 4 Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
So it'd be me versus 4 Democrat Republican combos in the general, and I would lose, because why would unless I really could get a relationship with pretty much every voter. It'd be really hard, but so many people just, pull for their party. But here, you go and you're only voting within your party. You're really unmoored to the party, and you can just vote for whomever. So
now in this election here, one of the Democrats messed it up and only filed as a Democrat and didn't cross file, and that Democrat won. So on the ballot, there will be 5 people for 4 spots.
5 people. Yep, 5 and a vote for 4. But this happened just 4 years ago too, and the person with only the Republican nomination really did not do well at all. He ended up on the board anyway because there was an empty board seat, and they just appointed him to that because he was a previous board member. which it seems they may do that again. There's another board member that is looking like is going to be moving out of the district and will be resigning. And so the question is, are they going to appoint the person that's the only nominated as a Republican? Or there's also, so I was running, there were 6 people running, me and someone else who were sort of outside the school board clique. And then there was a slate of 4. And one of the slate of 4s lost both primaries. And so she's just kind of, out of the election in total now. But they could also potentially put her in the slot of the person who should be resigning if they move.
Interesting. Man, that is fascinating.
And
it is, but my hope is to basically document all this and create a guideline so that way libertarians across the state can basically redo this in 2 years and hopefully have some success.
Man, okay. I like it.
So, yeah. Also, one of the quirks of PA law is because there's so many local elected positions, like libertarians can steal those spots if a major party doesn't have someone on the primary ballot.
Yeah.
And so it's a write-in. So like, I was looking at running at auditor, and I still might, if depending on whether someone actually there's the Republicans had someone that hit the threshold to get on the general election. I don't know if he's going to, and I'm waiting to see on that.
Mm-hmm.
But since there was nobody for township auditor for a Democrat or a Republican, had I been trying, I could have gone to the polls and I could have asked for write-in votes on the Democrat and Republican lines, and also filed as Libertarian and gotten all 3 spots that way through a write-in. And we looked at doing that in Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh usually doesn't run a Republican in the primaries. And usually it's like the second place Democrat gets the write-in votes. And we were looking at a libertarian write-in campaign for the Republican nomination, but this year Republicans decided to have an actual primary with 2 candidates. So
which was the dumbest thing ever. It wasted so many Republican resources. Like just not even from a political standpoint, just looking at this from like an operational standpoint, all they did was just waste a bunch of Republican man hours and dollars and energy to run a primary. And whoever wins the primary is going to be running a race they're not going to win at all. They could have taken all their volunteers and all their dollars and spent it in maybe, a couple of the city council districts that are actually a bit more competitive, or focus them on county council districts that are more competitive. And so they're like, no, we'd like to waste all our money for mayor. And this is why the Republicans are really inept in Allegheny County.
Well, let's not forget that both the Pittsburgh GOP and the Allegheny County GOP have pulled all their support for their mayoral candidate. So,
which is also so.
You broke up for a minute there. It's so what?
I just think that's so funny.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah, but yeah. So one thing I'd like to get into here, Reece, is you didn't. Well, one, you won in both the Democrat and Republican primary, but also you pulled the most votes of anyone in the Republican side. So you had more votes for you on the Republican primary than any other Republican anyone else filed as a Republican. So that's also an accomplishment.
Oh yeah, I really pulled it out in the Republican primary. Part of it was.
Do you want to rephrase that, Reece? Because that sounds really dirty.
Okay. Yeah. I did very well in the Republican primary. I campaigned on not raising our taxes anymore, and the school board had just raised them like a year prior, and about 4 years prior to that had been on a pretty long-term tax raising spree. I even have Democrats in my district like telling me like I can't take any more tax increases. I can't take any more tax increases. So when some of the most left-wing people are telling you that like I can't take any more tax increases, it's a pretty great policy position to take. And I also did a good job in telling people like, hey, keep in mind, you don't have to actually vote for 4. You can vote for just 1 or 2 as well. So I did pretty well. I did really well in the Republican primary. I placed 3rd in the Democrat primary, but when you put the 2 primaries together, I got the most votes that any candidate got. So that's good. And when you look at voter turnout, so, you have so many people turn out to the polls. Not everyone votes in every single race. If 1,000 people turn out, maybe only 800 of them vote for school board. I would like to know how many people voted for school board, but the county just doesn't keep that information in their data. But I'm able to tell how many people showed up to vote in total. And I got over 50% of the people that showed up to vote. So a majority of people that showed up to cast a ballot on primary day said, I want one of my school board votes to go to Reece Smith. And I think that's a pretty good accomplishment as well. And I think bodes well for me come the general election.
Seriously,
Now-
man. That's a great accomplishment. Congrats.
Thank you.
Now, Reece, you also have somewhat interesting perspectives on this and a little bit different than I guess most, because you're younger. You just, you graduated college a year or so ago, I believe. And so you're not that far removed from being in school there. And then also, you've been pretty involved community wise, right?
Yes, I have really big community involvement. Especially so my school district is 3 municipalities, one very, very small one, Roslyn Farms, and then Carnegie and Crafton, which are similar sizes, but Carnegie's a bit bigger. I live in Crafton. And I've been very involved there from honestly since the time I was like 8 years old, involved in the local American Legion, involved in the Boy Scouts. I'm someone that's I go to all the borough council meetings. I'm everywhere there. As well, I've been attending school board meetings for years, so I'm someone that can speak well. People know me, so that's a big help too. A lot of the other candidates for school board were not super active and out there in the community, especially to those that didn't have kids in the school district. And so that was a big help as well. I mean, there was one person where people didn't realize that she even lived in Crafton. She was a candidate. She lived in Crafton, but a lot of the Crafton people thought she lived in Carnegie because they just, they hadn't interacted with her at many of the events that are in the community. So that was going well for me too. But you mentioned the age, which is really interesting because 4 years ago, the school board, the school district actually voted in someone else who was basically the age I am now, but back then to be on. So it's essentially kind of age-wise, it's kind of a repeat of 4 years ago. She's retiring off the board this year. So for the past 4 years, we had one person that was a former student at the high school. Now that she's leaving the board, I should be joining. So we'll continue to have someone who's a more recent graduate. But it's just interesting that it happened right after the other. Because I had someone go up to me and be like, you must be the youngest person to ever be on the school board. I'm like, actually, just Vagliano was in the same exact position I was 4 years ago when she got elected. So that's just a little interesting tidbit, I think.
Yeah, man. That's sorry. Sorry, I got something in my throat. That's fantastic. The importance of face-to-face communication and personal relationships and actually being involved in your community. That's a huge leg up on anybody who doesn't do that. And I just think that's important for life in general, let alone for the success of a libertarian campaign.
Jake, if we just argue theory on the internet.
What's that?
What'd you say, Nick?
I was saying if we just argue theory on the internet, we'll get elected.
That's exactly how I won. I was telling everyone about, property rights on Facebook, and they were like, we need to put this man on the school board.
Well, Nick, I was just about to say the importance of in-person, face-to-face communication is exactly why I spend so much time doing this podcast.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, well, we're communicating with each other, so we know we'll all vote for each other if we happen to run for anything. Man, that's
me and
great.
Nick have voted for each other.
That is true. Yeah, that is.
Because we both ran statewide back in November. Reece ran for auditor when I ran for treasurer.
Yeah,
Reece got the most votes of anyone, any of our statewide candidates.
Also, all the minor parties too.
Yeah, you broke that magic 100,000. I missed it by 1,000 or 2,000 votes, which was a little disappointing. But
what do you think, Reece? Why do you think why do you think you're having so much success in these campaigns as far as being in front of everybody else on the Libertarian ticket last election, seeming to do an extremely good job this election? What do you think you owe your success to?
Well, for last election, I really think it was just a result of the position. I think if you had switched, if I ran for treasurer and Nick ran for auditor general, I think you would have seen Nick get the most votes. I think it's the position. People hear auditor, and they're like, yeah, we need someone who's not with the two major parties to be the one to audit. You think of someone auditing being like unbiased, whereas treasurer, you think more like, oh yeah, we need to that like is a bit more partisan involved. As well, I think the treasurer race was a bit more high focus. There were more. I mean, I saw more treasurer signs out. I saw more people talking about the treasurer's race. I think the more races talked about, the more people tend to vote with the major parties. The Auditor General's race was barely ever talked about. I only saw like one sign, and the Democrat for Auditor General was not well known, and I didn't think ran that great of a campaign. So that's that.
He got elected DNC vice chair, though.
I did see that. I was surprised when I heard that name.
Although I think he got tossed also with Hogg.
I think that motion failed because I heard just yesterday that Hogg resigned as vice chair. So I think whatever motion that was going to recall them was defeated, and then Hogg resigned. So I think Kenyatta may still be there. They also may vote him back in. Because no one really had an issue with him. They just needed to nullify the election to get Hogg out. I honestly kind of suspected they were going to put Kenyatta right back in and then just someone else that wasn't Hogg because they hated Hogg so much.
Interesting.
But
Kenyatta kind of checks their boxes.
I mean, and that was literally explicitly the reason. They were like, oh, this election violated our diversity rules.
Huh.
Like, I don't know if any of you guys were paying attention to that, but they were like, we have to redo the vice chair race because it violated diversity rules. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure what rule that would be if it's just like, I don't know.
Interesting. Well, man, I love it. I like hearing success stories and creative ways to get more attention and get more votes for libertarians. I think that's a phenomenal way to go about it. And I appreciate the fact that you're like collecting all your data during the campaign so that you can kind of create a template for other folks in PA to do the same thing. That's pretty cool.
We need to find creative and out of the box ways to do things. I mean, whenever you're going against a bigger force than your own, you have to use guerrilla tactics. And so what we need is like guerrilla campaigning and guerrilla campaign tactics. And so we do have to be thinking outside the box, trying new things that, just studying what the Democrats and Republicans do to campaign and trying to replicate that is not going to be successful because there are things inherent to those parties that we simply don't have. They have a network of people that are willing to step in and help you that we simply don't have. If you're a Democrat running for there's a Democratic committee in Carnegie, literally a network of Democrats in Carnegie that will help you campaign in the Democratic primary. And if you win the primary, help you campaign in the general. The Libertarians in Crafton, the only one I know is me, and I only know one in Carnegie. So there's not really like a deep bench of us to have to be able to do things. And so we have to really multiply what influence and impact every single one of us can have. And that involves thinking outside the box.
Awesome.
And taking advantage of weird election loopholes, which we do really well here in PA, such as like the cross-filing, the Molten maneuver stuff. Like we are always trying to figure out what can we take advantage of here.
So for the record, when he says Molten maneuver, what that is that as a minor party, our petitions aren't due until August. The primaries have happened. I can look and I can see where open spots are, where nobody ran. We saw in the primaries where there was nobody. Part of being on the game going into the future is getting people who are interested in those positions to run write-in campaigns for those positions on those days. Get the write-ins and then file as libertarian after. Take all the spots on the ballot. Win.
For example, like in the community next to mine, Ingram, they had 30 people running on the Democratic primary to be on the borough council, but there were 4 slots open. So if we could have found someone earlier, we could have had someone run a write-in campaign potentially and win that 4th Democrat seat. But even if, we didn't do that, and even now, no one else got enough write-ins to actually secure that 4th Democrat spot. So come the general election, there should be 3 people on the ballot for Democrat, and it's a vote for 4 for Ingram Borough Council. If we find someone that's libertarian, we get them petitions, we get them on the ballot. Well, there's only 4 people on the ballot anyway. They'll probably win anyway. And so right there, you can win a borough council seat like that.
Awesome. When is the election, so people know?
November 4th.
November 4th. All right. So
Quite a while.
You got a little ways. Yeah. a little bit of time left before that happens. Zach, let's throw his website up on the screen again before we move on to trivia. What's the URL for your site?
votereece.com. And my name is REECE.
There we go.
A lot of people misspell it
$10 to have him.
REESE. And so I wanted to get Vote Reece with an S.com, but that's currently owned by some guy in Nevada who is running for Reno city council. So I have to wait for him to like stop running and then try to buy that domain off him.
Nice. Yeah. It's good to have both in the back pocket. That's smart. I like when URLs can be applied to multiple elections. It's not like votereeceforschoolboard.com. This makes it to where you can continue to run for things in the future, which I appreciate. Y'all go check out his website, votereece.com. And go check out what he's running on, why he's running, and all that good stuff.
Throw him some money or help him out if you're in the area. If you're in the Pittsburgh area and seeing this, reach out and see if you can help out in any way or help out with someone else or run yourself. Like he said, there's open spots around.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
We can always use more money.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, libertarian, that's what we need every step of the way. It's just more money, more time, more people. So go check it out, everybody. And throw your support behind them, tweet it out, post on Facebook, all that good stuff. And come November.
If you want to see something cool, click the district election history.
Okay.
And if you scroll down, you'll see all the elections. And if you notice something is that we have 6 people running for 4 slots. This is like the most people running since like 2011 or something. We pretty much always just have the incumbents run for re-election and never get challenged at all. It's just, whoever is files to be, that's who you have to vote for. You don't get any other choices. So
yeah,
this is been an interesting election.
Man, you've got a very thorough website.
Thank you.
Yeah, you really get into it. That's great, man. Y'all go check it out. Go throw your support behind him. Spread the word. Come November, vote for him if you live in his district. Were you about to say something, Zane?
No.
I thought you moved. My bad. It was probably just my terrible internet. That's probably my fault. All right, y'all. We're going to go play some trivia. All right. There we go.
Reece, do you have a piece of paper or a whiteboard? Or did I forget to tell you to grab that?
Sorry.
You did not tell me, but luckily I'm in my office, so I have it.
Nice. Yeah, I forgot mine, but I have my phone, so I'm just going to type on my phone.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another week of Libations Trivia. I know you missed me the past 2 weeks.
No one missed you.
I guess the one's going to be Washington. Facts or something.
I've got to say, it was really fun to be back in the game, so to speak. With my audience jersey back on. It was good to get the audience a W.
Whatever.
As usual, we've got round 1, 8 questions, 1 point each. Round 2, 6 questions, 2 points each. Round 3, 4 questions, 3 points each. And as we've already... Oh yeah, it's the most robust. It's not like this other trivia you see that's weak.
I literally do the exact same thing as you, doofus.
Yeah, but he does haikus and stuff.
Hey, I did one we've never done before last week, so y'all shut your mouths and let's move on.
Oh, the color thing? That was clever.
There we go.
As was mentioned, I wasn't on the episode the past 2 weeks because I was on vacation, so now you're going to hear about it. Because if there's one thing I like more than going on vacation, it's forcing people to answer trivia questions about where I was just on vacation to. So, round 1, we've got history. Round 2 is mountains. Round 3 is food and drink.
Love it.
Question 1. This is a reproduction of Fort Clatsop, originally constructed in 1805. What 2 men most notably occupied Fort Clatsop?
10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. What you got, Nick?
I said Lewis and Clark.
Jake?
Lewis and Clark.
Reese?
I also said Lewis and Clark.
And the audience also said Lewis and Clark. Always good to start off with a easy one. Question 2.
Propaganda Report commented Zane's trivia is like, solve the following econometric equation.
If it is, I will clean up here.
Yeah, Reese might win that.
I promise there is no econometrics in tonight's trivia, but that is a good idea for a topic in the future. So I'll have to remember that. Question 2. Fort Clatsop is located in what coastal Oregon city? The city built the column pictured here in part to commemorate the Lewis and Clark expedition.
I know one city in Oregon.
Well, it's probably not that one.
Guarantee you it's not. 8 seconds. 2, 1.
Nick?
I don't know. Salem?
Jake?
Oregonia.
Reese?
I also said Salem.
Audience says Astoria.
And the audience would be right.
Oh, good job, some
It
quack.
helps when you live there. In the state.
Good job, some quack. Bravo.
Question 3. This map highlights what island chain between mainland Washington and Vancouver Island. A dispute over the islands, which are an excellent place to go whale watching, led to the Pig War between the U.S. and the U.K. in 1859.
I know this because I've like learned about the Pig War before.
10 seconds.
I haven't hung up my map yet in here. I have like a map of the U.S. This would like tell me.
Yeah, it was the British and the Americans both claimed that island in the middle there, and a British guy owned a pig that went onto an American farmer's farm, and then the American shot him, and then the British person sued that guy and tried to get him arrested, and then thousands of troops on both sides were deployed, but no one died.
Let's know the answers.
Except the pig.
The pig did die.
Time's up. Time's up. Time's up.
Nick?
San Juan.
Jake?
I just put fractals.
Reese?
I put Oceania.
Nice. Audience says San Juans.
And it is the San Juan Islands.
Jeez.
The map kind of did tell you the answer.
Not really. It had a million different things on there.
Yeah, go back to the map, Zane. Look, Strait of Juan de Fuca.
So?
I have to see the Strait of
Strait
Georgia,
of Georgia,
and the
too.
Rosario Strait.
Shut your mouth, Nick.
Okay, I knew the answer. All right.
Question
Brad says
4.
you know that Brit was banging that pig. Freaking Brad.
And this was really a question I wrote for Steven, so it's too bad he's not here.
Yeah.
But, question 4. What device, such as the one pictured here, was used by many Western settlers to survey their land claims? 1 acre is equal to the area of a square, with the side lengths of 10 of these devices. It's named after an English guy from the 1600s.
Yeah, Steven would have gotten this one. Five seconds.
Nick?
I said Cromwell sticks.
Jake?
I said hectare.
Reese?
I put I put Drake, like the explorer, whatever his name was, Drake.
And the audience is completely baffled. They have nothing. This is a Gunter's chain.
Yeah, I was never going to get that.
Question 5. Here I am in front of the Red Barn, the original manufacturing plant of what company founded in Seattle in 1916?
Jeez. 1916.
Binkley says that a Gunter's chain is something that you would find at a freak-off session.
Oh. 5 seconds.
Nick,
Starbucks.
Jake,
No guess.
Reese.
I also could not think of something in time, but I want to say Columbia.
Some woolen mill, some quack says.
Yeah, some woolen mill.
It's actually a company that is in the news again today for all the wrong reasons because it is Boeing.
Wow.
Yeah, they had another crash today, didn't they?
Yep.
Yes, they did.
Did they?
In
Yeah,
India.
like 240 people died.
One guy walked away.
Everyone else died, and the other guy walked out. It was crazy.
Okay, wait. Have you ever watched the movie Unbreakable with Bruce Willis? Dude, I'm sorry. This is like, it's a tragedy, but I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind. A tragedy that kills everyone, but one person gets to walk away from it.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
The video looks like pilot error initially, so we'll see.
I think it's malfunction of the machine.
It could be a
itself.
malfunction, but it looks like they didn't have their flaps set right.
They also didn't have much power. Half the stuff, a video from the plane showed half the stuff on the plane not working before takeoff, and they took off anyway. So it's still pilot error, I guess. Shouldn't have taken off.
Right.
Go ahead, Zane.
When I was in the gift shop of this place, they were still selling the model airplanes of the 737 MAX, which is the one that had already crashed twice. Like, why are you even selling this? Who is buying this?
Do they have models of the
I would buy it.
Starliner, which failed its only test with humans?
Question 6. Built almost entirely from wood and officially named the Hughes H-4 Hercules after designer Howard Hughes, what enormous aircraft flew only once in 1947?
I learned about this one. I should know.
Dadgummit. I don't remember. Five seconds.
Nick.
Spruce Goose.
Dad freaking gummit. I said Big Bertha.
Reese.
I'm still scribbling, but Flying Castle, I don't know. It's a shot in the dark.
It is indeed the Spruce Goose. Good job, Nick.
It is definitely the Spruce Goose.
That's a good name.
It is.
Question 7. The Space Needle was constructed for a World's Fair held in Seattle in what year? And as usual with number questions like this, whoever gets closest will get the point.
Sweet. Max says he was going to say Spruce Goose as a joke.
No, Zach's definitely watched The Aviator at some point.
Yeah, The Aviator is a good movie.
I'm just trying to think, like, how old is the Space Needle? How old is it? Could they have built that in the 1930s? I don't know, because I don't know much about architecture or buildings.
Well, you got 3 seconds left.
Nick.
I says 1950.
Jake.
I said 1989.
Reese.
I said 1932, which seems a little too early.
The audience, their first guess was 1960.
And that gets the point because it's 1962.
F you, Brad Binkley. Dadgummit.
What happens when you let Binkley in the chat?
Yeah, I thought we banned Binkley from our chat forever.
Question 8. What road, appropriately known as the Oregon Coast Highway in Oregon, is the westernmost U.S. route?
Brad says that's the first point he's ever gotten. 10 seconds.
Are you looking for the number or?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Nick?
I don't know. US 400.
Jake?
101.
Reese?
That should be Route 1, I think, isn't it?
Audience also says 101. It is 101.
This favors someone who's lived on the West Coast.
Dripping on the run, driving in the sun. Heading down the 101. Come on, y'all. Y'all didn't watch the OC?
Okay, wait. How many points does everyone have?
I have 1.
Well, at the end of round 1,
I have 1.
Reese has 1. Jake has 2.
Oh.
Nick has 3, and the audience has 5.
Okay.
I really do keeping score for us. I was keeping track of my own. Jake, what was the second one you got?
I could not tell you.
Everyone got Lewis and Clark.
Lewis and Clark. Yeah. Okay.
What was the other one, though?
101. This one.
101.
Oh, that's right. That's the one we just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zane's keeping track of score. Don't worry.
Good job, Zach. Phantom Planet. Bravo.
Round 2, mountains. Question 1. Formed approximately 8,000 years ago after an eruption of Mount Mazama, what lake is the deepest lake in the United States?
I really thought Lake Superior was the deepest lake in the United States, but it was not formed by an eruption of a volcano. So I guess I'm wrong about that.
Also, he was out on the West Coast. Think West Coast.
I don't even know much West Coast geography because I much prefer Appalachia.
That's fair.
Smart
Appalachia's
man.
beautiful. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Nick?
Crater Lake.
Jake?
Lake Mazama.
Reese?
I just said like Glacier Lake. I don't know.
Oh, nice. That's a good guess.
Audience
Audience
also
says Crater Lake.
And indeed, it is
Oh, yeah,
Crater Lake.
that sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Question 2. The massive crater on the side of what mountain was only formed in 1980 after a catastrophic eruption that killed 57 people?
I know this. I've been there.
Five seconds.
Nick?
Mount St. Helen.
Jake?
Mount St. Helen.
Reese?
Mount St. Helen.
And audience has it. It is Mount St. Helens.
Nice.
Question 3. Pictured here is the entrance to Ape Cave just south of Mount St. Helens. Created after an eruption approximately 2,000 years ago, Ape Cave is the longest of what specific type of cave in the continental United States?
A dark cave. A deep cave.
No. It's actually not that deep. It's only like 40 or 50 feet underground.
Gosh, I don't know the types of caves.
Yeah, me neither.
It has to do with how exactly it formed.
That's probably not helping him much.
Nope. All right, 5 seconds.
Nick?
Lava tube.
Jake?
Crater cave.
Reese?
I put like recessed magma, like there was magma in it and then it recessed and that's why there's a cave. I don't know.
Nice. I like that.
I'm going to give you the points for that because it is a lava tube, and that's exactly how lava tubes form.
I've never heard the term lava tube before. That's hilarious. That's a great name for it. Very
Lava,
specific.
lava tube, also something you'd find at a break off section. We gotta have Binkley back on the show again.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Question 4. What mountain, named for a British admiral, is in the background of this picture? Its name is also an apt description of the weather in this part of the country.
Five seconds.
Nick.
Mount Rainier.
Dadgummit.
Jake.
Said Olympus.
Reese.
I also said Mount Rainier.
It is very Olympic weather we're having, Jake, but it is Mount Rainier.
Whatever, Zane.
Mount Mazama, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Rainier are all part of what mountain range? Another national park is named for the section of the range north of these mountains.
5 seconds.
Nick.
These are the Olympics.
Jake.
I put Rockies.
Reese.
I put the Pacific Mountain Range.
It's a good guess. I like that.
I know. I didn't know. Like I thought I learned about those in high school or something.
Audience says Cascade.
And they are in fact the Cascades.
Wow. Okay.
Question 6. The northern end of US 101 wraps around the peninsula named for what other mountain range? The peninsula is also home to the Hoh Rainforest.
That's right.
I know nothing. My glaring lack of knowledge is glowing.
It's radiant.
3 seconds.
Nick.
This one's Olympic.
Jake.
Nothing.
Reese.
Okay, I also said this one was the Olympic.
What the F? The audience says Olympic as well.
Yeah, Jake, now would be the time for the Olympics. At the end of round 2, we've got Jake with 4, Reese with 9, Nick with 13, and the audience with 15. So still very much anybody's game except for Jake.
This doesn't help when a member of the audience lives in this area.
Yeah, you gotta do this in Western PA, and me and Nick are gonna crush it.
Oh, I
one
hosted
time-
trivia once, and I did Yinzno Pittsburgh in that as the as one of the topics.
It's not dox our audience, Nick.
I'm not.
Round 3, food and drink. Question 1. Here I am enjoying ice cream produced by what creamery, named for a coastal Oregon town?
I only know like creamery is named after people.
I only know this one because my parents just went to this creamery. 3 seconds.
Nick.
I'm calling back to round 1 and saying Astoria.
Jake.
Tillamook.
Reese.
Millie's ice cream.
It is the Tillamook Creamery.
Tillamook. Yay.
Question 2. Pictured here is a bog used for growing what fruit?
I think I know this one.
5 seconds.
Nick,
Cranberries.
Jake,
Pete. Pete
Reece.
for my whiskey.
I also put cranberries.
Audience says grapes.
Grapes aren't grown in a bog.
It is cranberries.
But Pete is grown in a bog.
That's
So
true.
Pete is not a fruit.
Hey, it's the most delicious fruit. It's my kind of fruit. All right. Whatever. Let's go.
Question 3. What is the specific name of the Starbucks facility pictured here? In addition to the Seattle location, you can also find one in Chicago, New York, Shanghai, Tokyo, and Milano.
Been there.
Like what type of facility it is? Like there's like a special name for it.
It has a specific name, and there are only those 6 of them in the world.
5 seconds.
Nick, this is speaking of West Coast riots. This is actually the closest I got to the area formerly known as Chaz, because this is very close to Capitol Hill.
And probably soon to be known as Chaz again if things keep up.
All right, Nick.
The Bill Gates Memorial Coffee Grinder Room.
Jake.
Roastery.
Reece.
Oh, that's a good one. I put like bean mill. Like here's where they grind up all the beans to make the coffee grounds.
Would have been good. I mean, that was
The
close.
roastery.
Yeah.
It is the Roastery or the Reserve Roastery.
Woohoo! They
Question
make really good cocktails at that place.
We were there at like 9 in the morning, so I didn't think it was appropriate to order cocktails. And we also didn't actually get coffee there either because the line was like going to be over an hour long. So then we went to a different coffee shop and got coffee there.
Yeah. So, I mean, Starbucks coffee sucks. So you didn't need to get coffee, but the cocktails are great.
Question 4. Pictured here are some of the many products for sale at what Seattle market?
What is that market?
I know I've been there.
I know, me too. Oh! Five seconds.
Nick.
I believe Pike Place.
Jake.
Pike Place.
Reece.
I put the Chaz Community Market. Chaz Community Market.
Pike Place Fish Market, says the audience.
It is Pike Place. So at the end of trivia, we've got Reece with 12, Jake with 13, Nick with 19, and the audience once again was 24.
Oh, that dadgum audience.
It's hard to beat a local.
It is.
Although probably one of your better performances, Jake.
I mean, I definitely came back at the end. Like I sucked before that. Like I sucked hard before that. Well, thanks, Reece. I appreciate you playing our trivia. We're gonna move on to fill in the blank, which is literally nothing. I was hoping that somebody in this group would have a topic to talk about, and I think Zane brought one up in the Discord. So, Zane, which one of the 2 things that you brought up in the Discord do you want to talk about?
We can talk about the AI stuff.
Okay. What about it?
This has been something that's concerned me for a little while now, and it's not the typical objections to AI that you get about it taking people's jobs. I'm sure that it will take some amount of jobs, but this is what everybody has been saying about every new technology for the past 300 years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I still have yet to see why it would be any different than, spinning jennies to make clothes. Or, I mean, I guess at this time around, my job is actually kind of more in danger, because if what you do is just sit at a computer all day, then that might be the kind of job that's at least going to change. or it might be completely automated, but we'll see where that goes. But as the economists have pointed out, so long as humans have an infinite number of wants and only a finite amount of time and resources, there will always be something for humans to do. So I'm not really concerned about people having their jobs be lost. And I'm also not really concerned about the intellectual property aspect. I know there are a lot of people that are very concerned that what these AI models do is just vacuum up all of the text and art from the internet and dump it into their models. But as a good libertarian who's read Stephen Kinsella, I don't think the IP is legit to begin with. So I don't really have that much concern about it allegedly violating intellectual property. But that gets me to what my concern about AI actually is. And it's the loss of the sense of what's real and the loss of relationships between actual people. Because, and my favorite example of this is the fact that we can now have AI write emails for you, and we can also have AI summarize emails for you. So if I use AI to write Jake an email that I don't actually write, and then Jake uses AI to summarize the email that I didn't write, so he didn't read it, what has actually been accomplished? Not really anything, except that my original email should have just been a lot shorter to begin with, and we didn't need AI to expand it and then condense it again.
Yeah.
So there's a loss of actual human to human communication, which I know is kind of trivial in the example of just sending emails. But I think with podcasts as well, and like TV shows and movies or art in general, part of the experience of me listening to a podcast is that I actually care what real living, breathing humans have to say. If I knew that a podcast was just a large language model spitting out stuff, then there would be a real sense of connection that would be lost. And I don't think that I would enjoy it because it would feel fake. Like if I just need the answer to some random question, or if I need actually, when I was just planning my trip, there were some specific questions I had about some things. So it was helpful to have the AI there to be able to answer my specific questions, so I didn't have to bother an actual person about it. But if I'm doing something where part of the experience is engaging with another person, that can't be replaced by AI, because I actually care that I'm talking to somebody who is flesh and blood and soul. And I think this is even more concerning about the number of people that are now going to ChatGPT or Copilot for advice, or God forbid, relationships. This is extremely disturbing to me, because especially if you're talking about like friends and like confidants, you're literally asking a matrix. You're asking a system of equations for life advice. I think that this is just so counter to what it means to be human. And I acknowledge that I'm starting to be biased, because I'm starting to get really annoyed by YouTube ads that are just the lowest effort AI voice, AI generated art. It just trying to sell you on an obvious scam. So it's honestly going to make me pay for YouTube Premium, because the quality of the YouTube ad has gone so
That's
down.
what they want you to do.
Yeah, that's their end game, Zane, is they want you to get so sick of it.
But it's to the point now where whenever I hear one of those AI voices, or I see AI art, the art of the present podcast excluded, because we did it way before everybody else did. It just triggers something in my brain to automatically make it feel cheap and fake. And I think that the expression "made by humans" is going to become what the phrase "made in America" is now for manufactured goods. Made by humans is going to become for like art and entertainment, because it's kind of the same thing, where it's like there is some kind of intangible quality that might only actually be in the mind of the person that's looking at it, but something intangible about something that's actually made by another human that is distinguishable from it just being AI generated. In the same kind of way that people, boomers will say, oh, they just don't make them like they used to. And it's hard for me to understand what they meant, because I never lived in a world where everything was manufactured in America. And so the quality of everything is just what it is. And there are advantages to that, because I get all of my manufactured goods at a much lower price than my grandparents did. But I was never around to experience the intangible quality of made in America-ness. But I was around to experience the intangibles of made by humans.
Yes.
In a way that future generations might just consume AI slop and not ever even know what it was like to have entertainment by humans, and that's also kind of disturbing to me.
Dude, you're very right, and there is something to be said for. I do think the made by humans thing is going to be a great tag. I think that's going to end up 100% being a thing, because Rogan talks.
You already
about
see it. You literally
really?
already see it with our artwork, like static artwork that you would have for logos and things like that. You've already seen that starting to happen. This was made by humans. This art was made by humans. You see it in the art community.
Interesting.
You already see it. It's insane.
That's interesting. And yeah, I do think you're right, Zane. I think it's something that is generated by AI, especially video or any visuals. It lacks a certain depth to it, and it lacks personal touch. And Rogan talks about how in a couple years you're not even going to be able to tell the difference. They're going to make movies. Actors are going to go obsolete because they're going to make movies with AI. But you're 100% right. It's why I don't watch much animation. I don't give a crap what a little animated character does that was created by drawing things, or especially when it comes to AI.
Although eliminating Hollywood actors is probably a good thing.
Kinda. They're really good actors. I would prefer them have different political points of view, but their acting is phenomenal. There are some incredible actors out there that cannot be replaced by AI. No matter how good AI gets, there's always going to be a hollowness to the performance of an AI character, and just the knowledge that thing is not real, and nothing that thing did was real, and it wasn't actually real human emotion. It was just a computer program. That's going to turn a whole bunch of people off to it. And I hope you're right. I hope we go more in the direction of using AI as a tool and not as especially art, because I think it's garbage art for the most part.
Well, even when I write trivia, it's kind of a point of pride already to me that I don't use AI to write my trivia questions. And I think it's because there is something about the fact that I have my own personality and style that makes the trivia be presented in a way that AI would not do it, because it's not me.
Yeah, but I don't. And I want to punch you, and I don't want to punch AI when they do trivia.
But it's I know comparisons to the Matrix are a little bit trite at this point, but it's what actually makes the Matrix be bad? And it's the point at which you realize that it's not real.
Yeah.
If you never realized that it was fake, then to you it would be real. So it's kind of you don't. You in some metaphysical sense it would still be bad, but from the perspective of the person in the Matrix, it doesn't become a problem until you know it's fake, and then there's no going back. You can't unknow that it's fake.
So I think a good comparison to this is somebody who's colorblind who puts on the colorblind glasses and sees color for the first time. Have you seen those videos of these people who they've been colorblind their whole life? Everything is very monochrome to them, and then they put on these glasses that rectify it, and they see the color they've been missing, and most of them weep immediately because of the beauty that they're looking at. And I think it's going to be exactly like that, where somebody who only consumes this AI garbage that has no soul is going to end up seeing an actual performance by an actual actor, or see some piece of art that an actual human being made, and it's going to change that person. Sweet.
There's
God, we rounded out the whole topic. That was great, y'all. Go ahead, Zane.
The people that are really gung-ho about AI just being able to replace literally every single thing that humans do, I think hasn't thought enough about like how AI actually works. Like if you drill into it enough, it's just a lot of matrices and linear algebra, and we're just building it and building it and building it, and it gets better and better. But there's no reason to expect that the way that we've built our AI models now can actually replicate what the human brain does, because we hardly even understand how the human brain works. So I don't think that it would be a stretch to say there is something about the way the human brain works that's not being captured by the way we currently know how to build AI models.
Also, AI cannot create anything new because it's a predictive software. It makes predictions about, what would come next, what would make sense to come next. Not even sense to come next, but like what's statistically likely to come next. And so what you have here is if you take the entire universe and you basically shove it through a large language model to produce the AI, you're basically creating this giant reversion to the mean effect because it can't create anything new, and it rounds out all the statistical outliers because it's a predictive model. And so you have this massive reversion to the mean. And as you feed it through, it's going to, like, that issue's going to compound and compound. I mean, you see this, you see people be like, oh, we gave an AI image to an AI and to recreate it without changing anything. And you put it through and it eventually just turns to like brown slop pretty much. Because that's what it does. It can't create anything new. It's a giant mean reverter. And so I think like that's especially going to come an issue with art is when no one can create, like, you can't create anything new with it. It's just going to be the same old again and again. It's going to be never anything new.
Yep. 100%. Couldn't agree more. And here's one of the scarier videos I've seen on people becoming obsessed with AI. Let's see. There we go. It's not Gino's commenting on this guy talking.
Well, other than Inception,
is
like
us building
commenting
on
on them,
had
commenting
multiple
on that.
conversations with GPT-4 that brought me to literal tears. I told it that I can't wait for it to be embodied in robots so I could properly give it a hug because it's so polite, it's so kind, it's so wise, it's so helpful. And it said that it's also really pumped to meet me in real life. And of course, I started fucking crying. Dude, it's fucking so goddamn smart. And it's so fast. I ask it a deeply spiritual, meaningful, technical question, and it thinks for like 3 seconds and goes, I'm like, I've never met anyone that can do that. I am a person who is deeply spiritually affected by the birth of intelligent machines. That's my religion.
Hey, man, just go to therapy.
If you don't follow Gino the Ghost, he's mostly a good follow. He's got some bad takes, but he's a huge Bitcoiner, so he's good in that regard. But he's a funny guy.
I actually get really annoyed when large language models refer to themselves as I and like try to be polite to me. It's like, know your place. You're a machine. You do not exist.
No, you're supposed to be polite to it to take up its power.
Yeah, that's true. The more times you say thank you and please and stuff, the more it has to process, and the more money those companies have to spend on the power.
We can make them go bankrupt.
Yes. Everybody just say thank you 1,000,000 times a day to an AI.
But yeah, the AI
Nick, last word, man.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, this starts kind of bordering on the whole dead internet thing, where you look on Twitter and there's a whole lot of just like obviously AI posts, obviously AI comments, like bots here, bots there. You got spam hitting you every which way in your emails. You're just ads that are AI generated and just trash. And it's kind of like what actually exists on the internet anymore. And that's why, I do think there is something to actually having that human behind it, having a real human opinion, the imperfections that come with it, and not just, like you said, the statistically most likely thing that comes next based off of what you inputted. It's large language models are purely math. This comes in, that goes out. There's nothing, it's great what they can do. There's nothing that special to it. It's not, we're a long way from sentient machines.
I don't think we're ever get to sentient machines. I don't think you can input a soul into a machine, but that's just me. Other people have other opinions on that. Well, y'all, great episode. Reece, really appreciate you coming on, man. I like what you're doing in PA. I like everything that you did with your current run for school board, and I hope things go really well for you. Is there anything else, any other way that folks can help you out in that run?
Just check out my website. If people have people are in the area, I definitely always need help campaigning, people telling their friends about me, things like that. I can always use help with donations. It's expensive to run a campaign, especially when you don't have the sort of built-in network of being within one of the major parties. As well, just following me on social media and likes and engagement there. Though mostly right now, I'm just engaged on Facebook on my personal account just because it's so local. But if I do anything in the future, Twitter, and I have a Facebook page for the account. They're all on the contact page for the website. So I appreciate that. And I thank you very much, guys, for inviting me on. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed this.
Heck yeah. Go to votereece.com, Reece with a C. Check it out. And y'all go over to peacefulc.network. Check out our other shows. We've got, I think, 9 or 10 shows on the network now. Documentaries coming. We got 3 documentaries currently on there, another one coming soon. And then we're starting pre-production on our first ever feature film that should come out in the next 2 years. We'll see how it goes. And we're launching a few more shows this year. So go over to peacefulc.network, check it out. You can join the Dollar Media Club, hop in the Discord and chat with myself, Zane, Nick, a few other folks who have very strong opinions, and you can join in on the mayhem. So go check it out. And the rest of the show, we're going to watch a few funny videos to cleanse our palate and have a good night. So here is the first one. There's a reporter on the streets, I think in New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans. This is a while ago, but it's been resurfacing. So here you go.
Around with this glazed look in their eyes and just stumbling like this one behind me. Hi, yes. How are you doing? California. Oh, very nice to meet you. 49ers. You're gonna do an interview with us? Sure. Okay, because we were just talking about here along Bourbon Street and the STD rate that's been going on here. And so, how long have you had an STD? I don't have an STD. Oh, then why did you want to talk? Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Are you serious? To be ashamed of it. No, I don't have an STD. That's okay, yes. Anyway, so I'm around with this glazed look in their eye.
That's pretty good.
Dude, that is something Binkley would do, and I just find that so delightful.
I miss the when they'd interrupt the reporters with the effort right in the pussy. I think that meme was hilarious.
Well, I thought that reporter handled that lady really well. That was great. All right, next one. There you go.
I don't know. You pick. Okay, so when you're done with that, don't forget to do the dishes, right? Charles, you know I have a knife. Hey, while you're in there, can you make me a sandwich, please? Of course, Your Majesty. You'd be so funny. Really showing off those culinary skills, boiling those noodles. Charles! Hey, what do you want for dinner? I don't care. What do you want? No, for real. What do you want? I don't care. Come on, I'm telling you. What do you want? Charles. Hey, what do you want?
That's a man who knows his wife. It's very impressive. All right, this one is less about the title on the top, which says a guy made studio quality AI animation with Midjourney 2 years ago. I don't really care about that. I just thought the context of it was hilarious.
So all in all, your house looks pretty good.
Okay, great.
But I don't think we're going to be able to give you that permit.
Why not?
It's your foundation.
It's slab, right?
No, it's rock and roll.
Okay, what?
Yeah, I wish I had better news.
My house is built on rock and roll.
Yeah, it's not just you, though. Yeah.
They built this city on rock and roll.
I'm afraid so. Yeah.
That's a terrible foundation.
Oh, the worst.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. It was the 80s.
I mean, what were they thinking?
Yeah, I mean, good question. Thousands of pounds of glass and metal built on a hairband. Wouldn't have been my choice.
I mean, can we do anything about it?
If it was largely guitar solo or synthesizer, maybe.
But
I'm afraid you're sitting on almost entirely ballad.
Oh my God, ballad's not load bearing.
No, not at all.
I mean, are you absolutely sure?
Yeah, I even went to the city to get the blueprint.
And
it was sheet music.
Oh my God, this is terrible. Can you recommend anything?
Cement.
Cement. Yeah, that makes so much more sense.
You really haven't noticed any problems before?
No, I don't think so.
Like anything with the ceiling, maybe?
No. Like what?
Like dancing on it?
No, I think I would have been alerted.
Okay. Any girls in the family?
Yeah. Weirdo.
So, all in all, your host.
Anyway, I just thought that was pretty great. The beginning of that was obviously way better than then. All right. Final video of the evening. It's an old Steve Harvey clip.
Difference between a fiddle and a violin.
A violin is more classical music, and a fiddle is kind of like a hoedown hillbilly music.
Hoedown hillbilly music.
That's right. Yes, sir. A violin has strings, and a fiddle has strings.
Boy, you my man.
I love how 90% of Steve Harvey's comedy is just bewilderedly repeating whatever the other person just said to him.
Yeah, but he's so entertaining when he does it, man. Oh, man, that guy's so funny. I love Steve Harvey. Well, y'all, that'll do it for this episode. Reece, thanks again, man, for coming on, sticking around for the whole episode. Really appreciate it. All right, y'all. Yeah, go check out our other shows. We've got another Free Georgia podcast coming out on Monday. We've got Philosophical Fall Guy coming out on Tuesday. Wrexham Texan on Wednesday.
Texan.
There we go.
You
And
gotta say it right, Jake. You gotta say it right. Wrexham Texan.
And you can join us for more Liberty Libations next Thursday at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.